Hello, everyone. I am Tanya. Welcome to Invest with Tanya. Today, we're going to be discussing why you didn't meet your 2022 home buying goals. I think this topic is very important because, as you know, we are technically in a recession. It is very difficult right now to um, really prioritize to buying a home, but I am going to tell you that I think that the next year is going to be a great opportunity. And if you want to hear more about my market predictions, please stay until the end of this video where I will be sharing that and what I am personally doing this year, in case you guys want to know. The first thing I did want to start with is a lot of home buyers that I meet, they really do think that it is very difficult to buy a home. They have never really experienced home buying or what the process is. Maybe no one in their families has actually bought in a house. So a lot of them, um, so I will ask some of them, like, do you believe that you can buy a home? Not just for them to know that, but also for me as a real estate agent to be able to walk them through the process so that way they feel comfortable buying a house. Um, so that is one of those things. And I will say that even though we haven't, even though that they don't know anyone, the process is super simple. What gets in the way a lot is all of those mindset blocks that we have. So I am going to be showing you a little bit of tough love, but I'm also going to give you some actionable steps because I think that is so important for people to understand that even though you don't know exactly what you're doing, it is possible for you to be able to buy your home and be able to use that home a year later to either sell it or qualify for another loan and move on to that next house and make that first home a rental. And that is exactly what I have been doing for the past 5 years. If you don't know my story, I have moved 5 times in 5 years between the years 2017 to 2021. And we may move, it is too late to move for 2022, but we may move at the end of 2023. We're still working it out. We're still trying to figure out how this whole process is going to work for us. But that is one of these things. So we have been collecting rentals. We have been going after our goals and achieving them. And I will say that um, that I could have easily been stopped in this home buying journey. I don't believe um, let me rephrase that. While I do believe that anyone can buy a home, I don't think that everyone can go through and move as many times. I don't think that it takes a certain type of person to have those goals and be able to stick with them is because it does get hard. And I'm coming out with a video on this on Sunday. And if you are watching this later on, it will be linked up here, but it is physically, emotionally, financially, it's just all kinds of draining. So if you are planning to do that, hit me up. I'm willing to chat with you. If you want to set up an appointment with me, let me know and we can set up something through Calendly, and we can I do charge for those appointments, and just DM me and I'll let you know how much that is. But I could have easily back in 2018, I could have easily looked at that $220,000 duplex and been like, "Oh no, this is really high. I'm not buying this. This is not worth it." But instead, what we did is that we ended up taking the leap, and it has paid off very well because who can find a duplex that for 220,000 that is a 3 bedroom, 2 bath in NWA, Northwest Arkansas? Not many people anymore. So that is one of those things that um that even though prices are high, they're always going to be high. There's always going to be an issue. There is always going to be something that prevents you from holding back and not making those house buying dreams a reality. So the first thing I want to talk about is your blocks. So we all have blocks. We all have things holding us back. Like for instance, I can make you a plan to buy a $300,000 duplex tomorrow, but for me to go out and buy something personal, something like something as simple as a lip stain, it takes me forever to decide because I don't want to be frivolous with my money. And that is one of those things, like I know that's an internal block that I have. But nevertheless, we all have stuff that is going on. We all have things that walls that we build. And so sorry, as you can tell, this is my first live, so I'm a little bit rusty. But the first block that I'm gonna be talking about is the block that I don't have enough money saved. Um, I hear this one so many times. This is probably the number one thing that I hear from home buyers, is especially when they're looking at buying a house. They're so nervous about how much money it's going to take to be able to get into the home. Um, Even though there are other options, and I do explain these options to them, sometimes just not having enough money and not being able to save that money is something that really holds people back. So, um, I'll be honest, I am very much of the mindset that anyone can save, that you can do this, all you have to do is cut back. That is one of those things that I truly believe in, and that is what we have done every single time that we have wanted to save for a home. Uh, we we got married in 2017. We were both college students. We had both moved into a tiny townhouse, so we were at least paying a mortgage and putting our money away into a savings account. So we really cut back. We were both paying for school in cash. We both decided that house buying, real estate generating, was going to be part of our goal to create financial wealth. We both decided that we wanted to, like, it was all or nothing. We didn't go on a honeymoon for the first 2 years of our married life. We decided that it was so much more important to save and do all the things that we needed to do rather than it was to take that vacation, to go spend money on that coffee, to basically just basically spend money where it wasn't necessary, because we had all these basic living expenses that we had to pay for, plus our mortgage, plus 2 college degrees. And yes, I was getting my real estate license at the time, but it was still very much a, like, put your work boots on. We're gonna hit the ground running. We're gonna work 2 jobs. We're going to study. We're going to do the best that we can type mentality. And I really do follow the Dave Ramsey style to an extent. I believe that, yes, I don't believe in debt. I really don't think that is something that um I don't think that's something people should have. There is good debt and then there is bad debt. I don't believe people should have bad debt, like credit cards, car loans, um, even just like personal loans or things like that. I don't think that people should have those things, but mostly it's because, like, if you didn't have the money to buy it, you probably should have not bought it. That is one of the mentalities I have, and you'll see us, like, we don't love having car debt, and we actually have not had car debt since we got married. All our cars have been bought in cash, and you'll see me driving around in a little Nissan, but that is what we could afford because we really didn't want that extra payment. Um, and honestly, that is really my advice for you, is to cut back on the spending. And if you are in a lot of debt, in a lot of just you have made choices along the way that have caused you to be in a lot of debt, look at all your debt. This is one thing that Dave Ramsey teaches is that look at all your debt and start paying it from the smallest to the biggest one. And this mentality really helps because you start paying one payment, you get that momentum, and then you go on to the next payment. You pay that one, and then you go on to the next one, and it just builds up. And he calls it a snowball effect. So, when you roll a snowball, you start out with like a little pile of snow, and then it starts picking up that momentum and gets bigger and bigger. So that is what you need to be doing. Um, if if you have no debt or have very little debt, because there's going to be times where you've got to use that credit card, and and you can't pay it off right that next month. Um, I'm sorry, where was I going with that? And okay, here's where I was going that. And if you find that you still can't save money, I would honestly look at getting a second job. And yes, the economy isn't doing that great right now, but there are still plenty of opportunities. At least that's how I was taught to look at everything. I was taught to look at um work as there being an abundance of opportunities, even if it was work that you necessarily didn't love. That is one of those things like get a second job if you can, because I know there are some people that have to stay home with their children, but you can still stay at home and find other money making um, projects like baking cookies. You can walk other people's dogs. You can watch other people's children. Like there are different things that you can do to make a little bit of extra money. And over time that adds up, and you'll be able to save that 3.5% down payment that it takes to buy your first home. So let's do the math because I know there are a lot of people that want to see this. So if you buy a $200,000 home and you have to put a 3.5% down payment on it, that is $6,000. And then from there, you have to pay your closing cost and prepaids. I will say that I think we're moving into a market where we don't that where we won't be seeing this as much. I think that sellers are going to be covering it more and more as at least within the next year. And so I don't think you're gonna have to save as much, but a good rule of thumb is to have about $10,000 on a $200,000 home. And I would say about 12,000 on a $250,000 home, and so on. So 3.5% of the purchase price. Okay, the second thing I am going to tell you, another block that I see is that sometimes you just don't qualify to buy a house. Okay, so this is a really big one because I find that some people, whenever they don't qualify, they end up just not dealing with it anymore. They end up just going away. They end up not even asking questions as to why they didn't qualify. And I will say that there are some lenders that will not explain it, but that is why you have to find a very trusted lender that will explain things to you. So, and if you see that the lender is not explaining, ask more questions. Keep asking questions until you get an answer, because sometimes it might be as simple as waiting 5 minutes for an answer. Sometimes it may be a different process, and you may have to go with a different lender. I typically recommend people to go look with 1, 2, 3 lenders because it won't impact your credit score as much. It will drop a little bit, I won't lie, but it won't impact it as much. And then, um, I mean, just figure out why. because it could be as simple as paying like $200 to bring your credit card loan balance. I have seen that, and that person, just by asking those right questions, was able to secure that they got into a house. And so this is one of those things, like, I really love this quote, and I don't remember who said it. I think it was Tony Robbins, but I'm not completely sure. The quality of your questions equals the quality of your life. So the more questions you ask, the more answers you're able to get. And in turn, you're able to make better decisions because you have more knowledge about everything. So this is not just a question like to your lender. If you don't qualify, of course, ask your lender, but like ask them, hey, so ask your realtor, like, hey, where do you see the market going? Hey, where are you looking to buy next year? If you know that they're an investor. Ask a question, would you buy right now? And ask me a serious sorry, and tell me a serious response. Don't just go off of the first answer. Ask clarifying questions, because sometimes a realtor may tell you, "Yeah, I would buy right now." And so then my follow-up to them is like, "Okay, so where are you buying?" And sometimes they will have no answer. So I will tell my clients like, "Hey, I am still thinking about buying, because honestly, me and my husband are open to buying pretty much as soon as we're able to buy, we are looking at houses to buy." So that is one of those things that I say that I'm always looking, because it's true. I am always looking, because if I can sell a house to buy a multifamily, I will. And that is literally what we have just done, because we have just sold our house to hopefully buy a multifamily this next year. So yeah, so if you don't qualify, ask more questions of your loan officer. Make sure you're talking to at least two or three, and make sure that you're asking why, especially if you don't qualify, and asking how long it will take to get you qualified. Okay, so the last thing I will say is that a lot of people get in their heads about the interest rates being too high or the prices being too high. Right now we are in the sixes. We're not really, really high. We're not super low. We're about in the middle, I would say. And yes, home the interest rate on houses used to be like at 12, 13%. But again, those houses were a lot cheaper. They were like more than half cheaper than what they are today. So that is one of those things. Make smart financial decisions. Make sure you're able to cover the payment if you were to lose your job, or um, just not even just lose your job. If your income was to be, I don't know, cut in half for whatever reason, that you could still make that payment. You're not too house heavy on with your mortgage. Meaning, so house heavy is saying that your mortgage payment is more than 30% of your take home income. So if you are making, I don't know, $3,000 a month, your mortgage payment needs to be lower than $1,000 a month. That is what that means. So make sure that you are making those wise decisions. And as far as house prices being too high, yes, they did go up in the pandemic. They have continued to go up until really about August, really June. No, not June. August, July. That is when I started seeing house prices come down, and buyers finally being able to take a breath and really be able to make um, I won't say better decisions, because the buyers that had to make the decisions to buy the other houses in 2020, 2021, and at the beginning of 2022, they were making the best decision that they could at that time. But now it's a slower market. You're able to negotiate a little bit more, so on and so forth. But, I mean, there's still gonna be people that are telling you that the prices are too high. And to this, I will say, I looking at year over year, especially in Northwest Arkansas, house prices are going to continue to rise, even if it takes a minute. Like, it's one of those things that we have to look at not just what the market is doing right now, but how that will affect you in a few years. So, that is that. Okay, but also I do want to say one thing because I have heard a lot of people say that it's not a good time to buy a home at this interest rate, even though house prices are currently declining. I I honestly think of it at this point of view. Most rich people are not worried about the interest rate because they know that they can make the payment and make the payment comfortably. Not the fake rich, but the real rich people. And and the thing is, like, with the interest rate, I understand both sides of it, but my aim is that I wanna be in real estate. I wanna go out and buy these houses, and the rates can be refinanced. I have refinanced many rates in my time, especially when they went down to the very low 3s. I missed out on the 2.5s, upsetting, but it is what it is, and I think that a lot of people are forgetting that you can refinance, and even though that house may not be exactly what you're looking for, because no house ever is 5 years after you buy it, you can move on, rent that house, or sell it, and then move on to the next house. It's as simple as that because a lot of people get very tied emotionally tied to the house, when on average, people are moving every 4.5 years. Think about that. That is crazy because um, a lot of people are no longer growing up in the same house their whole entire life. It's going to be very different for this next generation. They are going to be moving a lot more because 1, they're renting, 2, they've got more opportunities that can take them to different places globally. I mean, this online working from home situation is honestly to me has been the best thing that has happened, but I am a very introverted person, and I'm thinking that for the next few years, I think that at home, sorry, work at home is here to stay. So, I think that we should be more scared right now to spend our money frivolously on things like overspending for Christmas gifts, overspending on expensive vacations, overspending on just think like on things that our money will go to nothing, not investments, not anything. I think that it's very important that we choose to spend our money wisely, especially since we're in a recession technically. And a lot of people I am seeing are still buying those new cars, not looking at reports saying that, hey, Carvana might oh, what's it called? Might be foreclosed on. If Carvana gets foreclosed on, y'all are gonna be getting some really good deals on cars, and that new car that you just bought this month, the value is gonna go down, like plummet down. So that is one of those things that you have to keep an eye on the news. Like me and my husband have not bought in a new car in years, and boy does he need it. That car is making some noises that yeah, that are just awful. But you have to look at the news, not be scared, not be scared for the things that are about to happen, because I do think that we're going to see a lot of big companies go down, but you need to be prepared, save your money now, and really choose what you're spending on it wisely. Like, you do not need the new iPhone every single year. That is one of those things that I cannot stress enough, you have to be very careful with what you're spending your money on, especially this year. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get to my market predictions. Oh, did I not create one? Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, so for the next year, I truly think that we're going to see a increase in inventory. This is nothing new. We've already been seeing an increase in inventory. I have been I recently just sold a house, and I will tell you, I decreased the price a lot, and I paid for closing costs. Yeah, I think I paid for like half of closing costs. So it is not a that is one of those things that buyers are going to have to look forward to is sellers paying closing cost and them getting better deals, especially if the houses start high. And like a year ago, a house was priced super high and maybe sat on the market an extra 2 days. Now if a house is priced super high, it's gonna be sitting there for 90 days. It really truly is. I think that this area, Northwest Arkansas, is going to be growing. It's still growing a lot. Tyson is bringing in new people. There is still a housing shortage in this area, especially with new construction. But the big caveat is with the interest rates, at 6 at I think they're, like, in the 6s right now. Yes, I did see someone get a 5.9, but that's a different thing. I do think that prices are going to be still going lower because there's going to be more inventory. I've already seen a lot of builders, even though the supply is short, they are providing, incentives for you to go and buy their houses because they're seeing contracts slow down. So where does this put me? Because I like to give you guys what I am doing this next year. We just recently sold a house. Yes, like I said, we decreased the price, we paid a little in closing costs, um, but we still wanted to sell that house because we think that there are gonna be really good deals within the next few months. My goal is to buy something probably we're really gonna start looking in March and hopefully have bought in something by June or July at the latest. Because what happens is that the real estate market is very, very, very predictable. In the winter months, it usually goes down and it'll stay down January, February, picks up a little bit in March, picks up a little bit more in April, and then it'll go back up in June, July, August because people want to move during the summertime when their kids are out of school. Um, they want to go out and look at houses. I don't know, there's a bug that hits everyone starting probably May. So ideally, I would like to find something before May so that way I can still negotiate down on the price. I can still ask for closing costs. Now, do I think there's going to be a lot less buyers coming into this market? Yeah, I do. Because there's a lot of fear mongering right now. Um, there's a lot of bad headlines reading recession. And and while I do not think that it's going to be like 2008, I do think that we're going to see a substantial decrease. Some sources are saying 14%. I think Redfin was saying 14% um, in kind of not as populated areas in which I wouldn't consider Northwest Arkansas super populated. And they might see as much as a 30% decrease in areas like LA, New York, all of those coastal towns, because they had a really huge increase. I mean, for a while there, you couldn't find anything under a million. And I'm saying that probably um, being being saying that from a place of naive I can't say the word, but from a place of not knowing what the actual market is in those areas because I don't live there, I don't work those markets. But I will say in our area today, We actually have 54 listings under 200,000 on the, on the multiple listing service. Let me tell you guys how big that number is. Literally all last December, I was looking for houses under 200,000 for my clients. There was one, and it was the house that no one wanted to buy because it was just an awful house. Like, I will say that it was falling apart. It was, like, basically you couldn't even get a loan. It had to be a cash deal, and even that house was still, like, almost 140,000, when 3 years prior, that house would have been worth maybe 40,000. That is the extent of how crazy the market was. And that is just one of those things that we have to take into consideration, like, house prices boomed, like, they went up, and now the market is going into a correction, and while I do think that that is a really good thing for buyers, I do believe that if you are a seller that needs to sell your home, you're gonna have to price it right from the very, very, very beginning, because then it's gonna stay too long on the market, and if a house stays on the market too long, you're gonna lose interest, um, you're gonna lose people. And the longer a house stays on the market, the more likely you are to receive those low balls, asking for closing costs, asking for repairs, all of those things, which was normal. I will say which was normal in, well, I started real estate in 2017, so I will tell you my experience from 2017 to the end of 2019. Really up until, like, the middle of 2020, that was completely normal for people to ask for those closing costs, to ask for repairs. I remember I walked into a duplex in 2019, putting 3.5% down FHA, the roof was replaced, the AC units, the HVAC units, all of that was brand new. The seller went down $10,000, and they still paid for closing costs because the duplex had been priced too high, so it had sat on the market for almost a year, and so we were able to walk into a really good deal, and I think that we're coming back to that, and I'm really excited for buyers this year. I think that it's going to be a really great time to buy. Um, I am placing I really do think that this area is going to be going down. I don't think it'll hit the 14% mark, but I do believe that it's going to go down substantially compared to what we've had. Now, if you're saying, "Oh, well, I bought my house in the past year." I mean, y'all, houses went up 20%. You're still earning a um, good you still have a pretty nice equity, especially if you got your interest rate very low. Like, people buying a $300,000 house have the same payment today as someone who bought a $400,000 house a year ago. So that is, like, one of those things to consider, that I still do not think that you got a bad deal on this, because you basically bought more house with less money. So, the and, being able to buy more house, that means as the economy recovers, you're gonna have a higher equity. You're gonna have, a better chance of selling it later on, because now people are going to be looking at their money a little bit more wisely and looking to see, "Okay, well, I can buy this smaller house for this payment, and I need to stick under this payment." Um, so that is just one of those things to consider, because I know that there are going to be people that are always going to say, well, I should have just bought in last year because the interest rate was low." It doesn't matter. It's all really just nuances, because if you buy even at a 7% this year, in a few years when the interest rate does ultimately go down to a 3%, you can refinance. And they're expecting that by 2025, you'll be able to refinance with a good rate, maybe even sooner. So, those are things to consider. Um, that was really all that I had for today. It was a very long conversation, and I guess I will catch you in the next one. My newest video will come out on Sunday. It's going to be talking about how I have moved 5 times in 5 years and just that whole process of how it was and why we did it. So if you like this content, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to you later. Bye.